Have you ever used an app and just thought, this feels awkward? You're not crazy. It turns out a fundamental rule that designers have been following for years is, well, basically a myth. Today, we are going to completely tear down the idea of the thumb zone and show you what the data actually says about how we hold and use our phones. Okay, so where did this whole thing even come from? It all started with a simple, kind of brilliant-looking diagram that pretty much became gospel for anyone designing a mobile app. And I bet you've seen it, even if you don't know what it's called.
And there it is, the famous thumb zone. The idea seems so simple, so intuitive, right? All the important stuff should be in that comfy green arc where your thumb can just naturally sweep across. On the surface, it makes total sense. I mean, who could argue with that?
But what if I told you that this simple, sensible rule, the one that has shaped thousands of apps you use every single day, is built on a foundation of, let's just say, some really outdated ideas? This is a quote from a UX researcher named Steven Huber. And here's the best part of this whole story. Huber was actually one of the people whose early work helped create the thumb zone myth in the first place. But in a fantastic act of scientific honesty, he realized his original assumptions just didn't hold up, and he set out to find the real truth with a mountain of new data. To really get why the thumb zone idea was so popular, we have to jump in the time machine. We're going way back, before smartphones, to a world of desktop computers, clunky mice, and a law of design that actually dates all the way back to the 1950s.
And this is it, Fitts' law. It sounds kind of technical, but it was a revolutionary idea from a psychologist named Paul Fitts, and it became the absolute bedrock of how we designed computer interfaces for decades. It's basically a formula for predicting how long it takes you to point at something on a screen.
And what it boils down to is just two super intuitive things. One, the closer a button is, the faster you can click it. And two, the bigger a button is, the faster you can click it. Simple enough, right? Now, on a desktop computer, this law created what designers called magic zones. Think about it for a second. Your mouse cursor physically stops at the edge of the screen, right? You can't overshoot it. So you can just slam your mouse to the top to hit the menu bar without even aiming. That makes the edges, and especially the corners of the screen, incredibly fast targets. This was perfect for a mouse. But then everything changed. We swapped out that predictable little mouse pointer for the most amazing, complex, and totally unpredictable pointing device in the universe, our own fingers. And all those magic rules, they didn't just bend, they completely broke. Now, touchscreens didn't just pop up with the first iPhone. The technology evolved for decades, from those old light pens to the resistive screens on Palm Pilots that you really had to press down on. But the capacitive screen that's in your pocket right now, it's a whole different animal. See, instead of sensing pressure, your phone's screen is actually using the natural electricity in your body to find the exact geometric center of where you're touching. It calculates a single, hyper-precise point. And that means it doesn't care how big your finger is or how much of it is squished against the glass. And this leads to a pretty shocking conclusion. All those old design rules about making buttons huge for people with fat fingers, they're based on technology that's completely obsolete. With the phone you have right now, the size of your fingertip is just irrelevant to how accurate the screen is. Okay, so if the tech is totally different and the old rules don't apply, how do we actually use our phones? This is where the new data comes in, and this is where those old assumptions just get blown out of the water. And we're not talking about guesswork here. Huber and his fellow researchers didn't just ask a few people in a lab. They analyzed over 120 million actual touch events from thousands of people using their phones in the real world, walking down the street, sitting in a cafe, riding the bus. This is some serious data. So what did all that data show? Well, first off, that central idea behind the thumb zone, that we're all using our phones one-handed, is just not true. Less than half of us are actually holding our phone that way at any given time. And just think about how you use your phone throughout the day. You cradle it, holding with one hand and pointing with the other. You type with both thumbs. You prop it up. The reality is, we are constantly, and without even thinking about it, shifting between all these different grips to fit whatever we're doing. So what does that mean? It means the whole idea of one single, fixed, easy-to-reach zone is a total fantasy. Our reach and what's easy is changing every single time we shift our grip. The myth is officially busted. And this brings us to the biggest bombshell from all the research. When you look at where we actually tap most often and with the most accuracy, it isn't the bottom of the screen. It's the center, right in the middle. I mean, think about it. You instinctively scroll a link or a button to the middle of your screen before you tap it. That is the real prime real estate on your phone.
Okay, so if the thumb zone is dead, what are the new rules? What does all this mean for designing apps that actually feel good to use? Apps that are designed for human hands and not for a little computer mouse. The new framework is actually beautifully simple, and it completely flips the old model upside down. Your most important stuff, the main content, the primary buttons, that goes right in the center, where we're already looking and where we tap the most accurately. Secondary things like tab bars or search, they go on the edges. And the corners, which are actually the hardest places for us to tap, are saved for things you rarely need, like a settings menu. This table just sums up the whole mind-bending shift perfectly. With a mouse, the edges were magic. With our fingers, the center is king and the edges are awkward. It means we have to stop designing phone apps like they're just tiny websites and start designing them for the flexible, dynamic, and frankly, kind of weird ways that we all actually hold them.
So the next time you pick up your phone and open an app, really look at it. Ask yourself, was this designed for a mouse or was this designed for my hand? Is that button I need all the time tucked away in a corner, or is it right in the middle where it belongs? Now that you know the real rules of touch, I promise you, you are going to start seeing it absolutely everywhere.